The distant whir of engines pierced the silence of deep space, where the vastness stretched endlessly in all directions. Through the cold void drifted something unusual, a small escape pod, its hull scared and systems failing. Inside, curled up in the emergency preservation chamber, lay a being unlike anything humanity had encountered before. The year was 2157, and Earth's deep space monitoring stations had detected an anomalous signal, weak but distinct, carrying what seemed to be a universal distress pattern. Lieutenant Sarah Chen was on duty at Outpost 7 when the first transmission came through. Her fingers flew across the holographic display as she enhanced the deteriorating signal, trying to pinpoint its source. What she found made her breath catch in her throat. "Control, this is Outpost 7, she radioed, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm tracking what appears to be a non-human escape pod. Life signs detected, but they're fading fast." The response from Control was immediate. Rescue protocols were initiated within minutes. The closest vessel was the UES Horizon, a research and rescue ship captained by David Torres. As the ship's massive engines pushed them toward the coordinates, the crew prepared for first contact protocols. Nobody knew what they would find inside that pod, but humanity's commitment to helping those in need extended beyond terrestrial boundaries. Through the observation window of the medical bay, Dr. Rachel Foster watched as the automated retrieval systems gently brought the alien pod aboard. The metal was unlike anything in human engineering. It seemed to shimmer with an iridescent quality, despite the obvious damage. When the preservation chamber finally opened, the medical team stood in awe. The being inside was clearly wounded, its crystalline-like skin dulled with what they assumed was illness or injury. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but with differences that spoke of evolution on a world far from Earth. Most striking were the patterns of light that pulsed weakly beneath its translucent surface, a biological feature that human scientists had only dreamed of. As Dr. Foster approached with her medical scanner, the alien's eyes opened, 3 of them arranged in a triangle pattern. The fear in those eyes was unmistakable, transcending the barriers of species in space. Dr. Foster did something that wasn't in any first contact protocol. She slowly reached out her hand, palm up, in a universal gesture of peace. The alien hesitated, then extended what appeared to be its own appendage. The moment they made contact, a soft glow emanated from the point where their hands met. The ship's linguists would later theorize that this was the alien's primary form of communication, a sharing of bioelectrical signals that conveyed meaning through light and energy. What they learned in those first few moments would change humanity's understanding of the universe forever. But as the medical team worked to save their unexpected patient, they had no way of knowing that this encounter was just the beginning. The real question wasn't how this being had found them. It was what it was running from. The answer to that question would come all too soon, as deep space sensors began detecting multiple objects entering the solar system, following the same trajectory as the escape pod. Captain Torres stood at the bridge, watching the incoming signatures with growing concern. Whatever had wounded their new friend had followed them home, and humanity would soon face a choice that would define their species for generations to come. The bridge of the UES Horizon hummed with tense activity as Captain Torres called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. The holographic displays showed multiple objects, at least 7 distinct signatures, moving with purpose through the outer solar system. Dr. Foster arrived last, her medical uniform still showing traces of the bioluminescent residue from treating their unexpected guest. "What do we know?" Torres asked, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical display. Lieutenant Chen pulled up the sensor data, showing the approaching vessel's trajectory. "They're larger than anything we've encountered before, Captain. Each one is roughly the size of our largest orbital stations. Energy readings are, well, they're off our established scales." Down in the medical bay, the alien patient had stabilized enough to attempt more complex communication. Through a combination of light patterns and the ship's advanced translation matrices, they began to understand fragments of its story. It identified itself as a researcher, a keeper of knowledge from a civilization that had spanned thousands of worlds, a civilization that now existed only in memory. The beings pursuing them were known as the Void Hunters, a name that sent pulses of deep indigo fear through their guests' crystalline form. They were ancient, patient, and methodical in their consumption of advanced civilizations. They didn't simply conquer or destroy. They harvested knowledge, technology, and life itself, adding each species' biological and technological distinctiveness to their own. Back on Earth, the United Earth Council had convened an emergency session. The decision to aid an unknown alien fugitive could have profound consequences for humanity. Some argued for immediately turning over the refugee to avoid confrontation with a clearly superior force. Others stood firm on principles of asylum and basic sapient rights. Dr. Foster found herself working double shifts, dividing her time between treating their patient and helping to understand the incredible biological advances encoded in its very being. The crystalline entity, which the medical team had begun calling Aurora, due to its shifting colors, possessed cellular structures that could revolutionize human medicine. Its wounds were already healing at an extraordinary rate, damaged crystal matrices rebuilding themselves using principles that defied current scientific understanding. As the Void Hunters drew closer, Aurora became increasingly agitated. Its light patterns showed images of worlds going dark, of entire species being reduced to raw materials for the Hunters' endless expansion. But there was something else, something it was trying desperately to convey about why it had chosen to flee to Earth specifically. Captain Torres received the order from Earth Command just as the first Void Hunter vessel crossed Mars's orbit. Humanity would stand its ground. But as he prepared to broadcast the standard first contact reading, Aurora's lights flashed in desperate patterns. Through the translator came a fragmented warning, not first contact. They'd been here before, long ago, left something behind. The revelation sent shockwaves through the crew. What connection did these cosmic predators have to Earth's past? And what had they left behind? As the massive ships drew closer, Aurora's lights dimmed to a soft glow, and it began sharing ancient data that would forever change humanity's understanding of their own origins. Aurora's warning about the Void Hunters' ancient connection to Earth unlocked a flood of classified files from deep within humanity's archives. Ancient cave paintings, mysterious archaeological findings, and unexplained technological artifacts, all pointing to a terrifying truth. Earth hadn't just been visited before. It had been seeded, prepared like a garden waiting to be harvested. Dr. Foster worked frantically in her lab, analyzing the biological data Aurora had shared. The crystalline being's genetic structure contained something remarkable, a resistance to the Void Hunters' harvesting technology, evolved over centuries of conflict. But what made humans uniquely valuable to these cosmic predators was hidden in their own DNA, markers of ancient manipulation that made Earth's life forms perfect for integration into the Hunters' collective. Captain Torres stood on the bridge as the massive ships entered visual range. Their dark hulls seemed to absorb light itself, creating void-like silhouettes against the stars. Earth's combined defense fleet looked tiny in comparison, but they held their position, buying time for Dr. Foster's research. The fate of humanity hung by a thread of understanding locked within Aurora's crystal matrix. The Void Hunter's first transmission shook the very foundations of the ship. Return what is ours, children of Earth. Your creation was our gift. Your harvest will be our reward. The message confirmed humanity's worst fears. They had been engineered, cultivated, and now the farmers had returned for their crop. But Aurora's lights pulsed with increasing urgency, sharing one last piece of crucial information. The crystalline technology in its body wasn't just resistant to the Hunters. It was the key to unraveling their power. If they could decode it in time, humanity might have a chance. As the massive ships moved to surround Earth, Dr. Foster made a breakthrough that would either save their species or doom them all. The deck plates shuddered as the first energy pulses from the Void Hunters struck Earth's defensive shields. Time was running out. In the medical bay, Aurora's crystal structure began resonating with an intense frequency, revealing a pattern that had been hidden in plain sight since the beginning of human civilization. The question was, could they weaponize this discovery before the shields failed? As Dr. Foster raced to decode Aurora's resonance pattern, the Void Hunters revealed their true strategy. Their massive ships weren't just weapons. They were anchors, connecting to something buried deep within Earth's core. Ancient machinery, dormant for millennia, began humming to life beneath humanity's feet. The ground trembled worldwide as buried structures activated, creating a network that threatened to tear the planet apart from within. Captain Torres received desperate reports from cities across the globe. Strange crystalline formations were erupting from the Earth's crust, but unlike Aurora's luminescent structure, these crystals pulsed with an ominous dark energy. They were receivers, part of a planetary harvest system that had been growing beneath human civilization for thousands of years. But Aurora's reaction to these emerging structures wasn't fear, it was recognition. Through increasingly urgent light patterns, it revealed a stunning truth. These crystals were originally created by its own people, hijacked and corrupted by the Void Hunters centuries ago. The very technology meant to protect worlds had been turned into a tool for their destruction. Dr. Foster's eyes widened as she made the connection. The resistance in Aurora's genetic structure wasn't just a defense. It was a key to reclaiming control of these ancient networks. Human DNA contained markers that made them vulnerable to the Hunter's harvest. But it also held something the Hunters never expected: the capacity to bond with the original crystal technology. The Void Hunters seemed to realize this discovery at the same moment. Their massive ships began charging weapons unlike anything humanity had seen before. But they weren't aiming at Earth's defense fleet. They were targeting specific points on the planet's surface, locations where the dark crystals were emerging. "They're trying to destroy the network before we can use it," Torres transmitted to Earth Command. "They're afraid of what we might do with it." The revelation sent shockwaves through the command structure. The Hunters had become the hunted, and for the first time in their ancient history, they showed signs of fear. Aurora's lights pulsed with newfound intensity as it interfaced with the ship's communications array. Its message was clear: humanity needed to act now, before the Hunters could destroy the crystal network. But using the ancient technology would require a sacrifice, one that would forever change both humanity and Aurora's species. Dr. Foster looked at the final calculations on her screen, her hands trembling slightly. The plan was theoretically possible, but it meant merging technologies in a way never before attempted. Human DNA, Aurora's crystalline structure, and the ancient Earth network would need to be synchronized perfectly. One mistake could accelerate the very harvest they were trying to prevent. As the Void Hunters' weapons reached full charge, Aurora made an unexpected move. Its crystalline form began to dissolve, spreading through the ship's systems like liquid light. The being they'd rescued was transforming itself into a living conduit, ready to bridge the gap between humanity and the ancient crystal network. But this process would only work with a human counterpart, someone willing to undergo a transformation from which there would be no return. Dr. Foster stepped forward, understanding what needed to be done. Captain Torres's voice cracked over the intercom as he realized her intention. "Rachel, wait." But there was no more time for waiting. As the first Hunter weapons struck Earth's surface, Dr. Foster placed her hand against the console where Aurora's essence now flowed, initiating a sequence that would either save humanity or become its final chapter. The moment Dr. Foster's hand touched the console, time seemed to slow. Aurora's crystalline essence flowed into her body, transforming human cells into a hybrid structure that glowed with otherworldly light. The pain was intense, but through it, she felt something extraordinary: a connection to every crystal node buried beneath Earth's surface. The Void Hunters sensed the change immediately. Their weapons shifted target, focusing their full destructive power on the UES horizon. But they were too late. Dr. Foster, her consciousness now merged with Aurora's, reached out through the ancient network. The dark crystals emerging from Earth's surface began to pulse with new energy, their corrupted resonance transforming back to their original frequency. Captain Torres watched in awe as Dr. Foster's transformed body emanated waves of pure energy. The ship's sensors detected a cascade effect as each crystal node activated, creating a web of light that encircled the planet. The Void Hunters' massive ships suddenly found themselves trapped in a field of energy they couldn't control. The very technology they had corrupted was now being used against them. But victory came with a price. As the hybrid consciousness of Foster and Aurora took control of the network, they discovered the Hunters' darkest secret. These beings weren't just harvesters. They were themselves harvested, forced to consume civilizations by an even greater power lurking in the darkest reaches of space. The Crystal Network wasn't just a defense system. It was a beacon, warning of something far worse approaching. The Void Hunters' ships began to break apart, their ancient technology unraveling as the Crystal Network purified their corrupted systems. From within their disintegrating vessels emerged thousands of crystalline beings like Aurora, the original crews freed from centuries of enslavement. Earth's defense fleet stood down in amazement as these liberated beings joined the growing network of light. In the medical bay of the UES Horizon, Dr. Foster's transformation reached its completion. Her human form had become a hybrid of crystal and organic matter, pulsing with the same bioluminescence as Aurora. Through their merged consciousness, they shared a vision of both victory and warning. Humanity had survived its harvest, but they needed to prepare for what was coming next. As the freed crystal beings integrated with Earth's ancient network, they shared their vast knowledge with humanity. The planet's buried crystals weren't just weapons or defenses. They were parts of a galactic communication system built by Aurora's people eons ago to unite against the true threat still lurking in deep space. Humanity had proved itself worthy of this legacy, but their greatest challenge lay ahead. The transformed Dr. Foster, now a bridge between two species, looked out at the stars with new eyes. The network she now commanded would need to be expanded, strengthened, and prepared. The Void Hunters were just the harbingers. The real harvest was still to come. Captain Torres approached the being that had once been his chief medical officer. Her crystalline form turned to him, emanating patterns of light that the ship's systems now translated perfectly. "We won this battle, Captain, but the war for survival has only begun. The question isn't whether we'll be ready. It's whether the rest of the galaxy will stand with us when the time comes." As humanity celebrated their victory, few noticed the strange patterns appearing in the distant reaches of space, signals that made even the liberated hunters tremble with recognition. The harvest had been prevented, but something far hungrier was stirring in the void. In the months following humanity's victory over the Void Hunters, Earth underwent a remarkable transformation. The Crystal Network, once hidden beneath the surface, now sparkled openly across the planet's landscape, creating a beautiful matrix of light that served as both a defense system and a reminder of how close humanity had come to extinction. Dr. Foster, in her hybrid form, became Earth's primary link to the vast knowledge of both Aurora's people and the liberated hunters. Through her, humanity learned to harness the crystal technology, advancing centuries beyond their previous capabilities in mere months. Cities began incorporating the living crystal into their architecture, creating self-sustaining structures that pulsed with their own inner light. The freed Void Hunters, no longer bound to their corrupted programming, shared the devastating truth of their enslavement. They spoke of an entity they called the Void Sovereign, a cosmic horror that had systematically consumed countless galaxies. Earth's victory had disrupted its carefully orchestrated harvest, but in doing so, had also attracted its attention. Captain Torres, now Admiral of Earth's rapidly expanding crystal hybrid fleet, worked closely with Dr. Foster to prepare humanity's defenses. The ancient network was expanding, connecting with dormant nodes on other worlds, creating an interstellar alliance of crystalline and organic beings united against the coming darkness. But perhaps the most profound change was in humanity itself. The presence of the Crystal Network had begun to affect human evolution, awakening dormant genetic potential that had been seeded eons ago. Children born after the Great Battle exhibited subtle bioluminescence, a sign that humanity was adapting to its role as guardians of the network. Aurora's consciousness, still merged with Dr. Foster's, had found peace in their shared existence. Together, they worked to unlock the full potential of the crystal technology, preparing Earth for its new role as a beacon of resistance against the Void Sovereign. The network they commanded wasn't just a weapon. It was a symphony of light and life, a testament to the power of cooperation between species. As Earth's first crystal hybrid ships prepared to venture into deep space, carrying both human and crystalline crews, Dr. Foster stood at the observation deck of the UES Horizon. The distant stars held new meaning now. not just points of light, but potential allies in the coming struggle. Humanity had survived its harvest by learning to trust, adapt, and grow beyond its limitations. The signal patterns at the edge of known space continued to grow stronger, a reminder that their greatest challenge still approached. But this time, Earth wouldn't face it alone. The crystal network pulsed with the combined strength of multiple civilizations, a light of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Humanity had evolved from harvest to hunter, from prey to protector, ready to stand against whatever horrors the void might bring. As the story of Earth's transformation spread across the galaxy, other civilizations began to emerge from hiding, seeking to join the alliance. The crystal network that had once marked worlds for harvest now served as a beacon of hope, guiding lost species to a unified stand against extinction. In the end, humanity's greatest strength hadn't been in weapons or technology, but in their capacity to unite, adapt, and face the unknown with unwavering determination. The harvest had failed, but a new dawn had risen, one that promised not just survival, but the kind of victory that could only come from standing together against the darkness.